World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945, was the deadliest and most widespread war in human history. It involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. The roots of the conflict lay in the unresolved issues of World War I, the harsh Treaty of Versailles, and the rise of aggressive totalitarian regimes in Europe and Asia. Germany, under Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party, sought revenge for its defeat in World War I and aimed to dominate Europe. Meanwhile, Italy under Benito Mussolini and Japan under Emperor Hirohito pursued imperial ambitions in Africa and Asia. Economic depression, political instability, and nationalist fervour fueled these movements. The failure of the League of Nations to enforce peace further emboldened aggressors. By the late 1930s, tensions had reached a breaking point as Germany rearmed and expanded its borders, violating international treaties and testing the resolve of democratic powers like Britain and France. The immediate cause of World War II was Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. Hitler used a false flag operation, staging a Polish attack on a German radio station to justify his aggression. The German Blitzkrieg lightning war strategy combined fast, moving tanks, aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm Polish defences. Within weeks, Poland was crushed. On September 3, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany, marking the official start of World War II. However, they could do little to help Poland, which was soon divided between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union following the secret terms of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This non-aggression agreement between Hitler and Stalin shocked the world, as two ideologically opposed regimes cooperated to carve up Eastern Europe. Poland's defeat demonstrated the brutal efficiency of modern warfare and foreshadowed the devastating campaigns that would follow across Europe and beyond. After the conquest of Poland, a period known as the Phony War followed in Western Europe for several months. Little fighting occurred along the French-German border. However, in April 1940, Germany launched a lightning invasion of Denmark and Norway, followed by a major assault on Western Europe in May. Using blitzkrieg tactics, German forces swept through the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg before striking France through the Ardennes forest, an area the Allies thought was impenetrable. The French army was outmaneuvered, and Paris fell on June 14, 1940. France surrendered shortly after, leading to the establishment of the German-controlled Vichy regime. Britain now stood alone against Nazi Germany. The rapid collapse of Europe stunned the world and demonstrated the effectiveness of German military innovation. Hitler believed victory was inevitable, and he turned his attention to destroying Britain through air power and psychological warfare. The Battle of Britain, fought between July and October 1940, was the first major military campaign fought entirely by air forces. Germany's Luftwaffe aimed to destroy Britain's Royal Air Force, a RAF, and pave the way for a potential invasion, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. British radar technology, superior aircraft design, and the courage of RAF pilots played a crucial role in resisting the German onslaught. Prime Minister Winston Churchill's stirring speeches inspired national determination, famously declaring, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." Despite heavy bombing of London and other cities during the Blitz, Britain refused to surrender. The failure of the Luftwaffe marked Hitler's first major defeat and forced him to postpone his invasion plans indefinitely. The Battle of Britain proved that air superiority could determine the outcome of modern warfare and gave hope to the Allied cause at a dark moment in history. In 1941, the war spread to new regions as the Axis powers sought to expand their influence. Italy's invasion of Greece and North Africa met with limited success, forcing Germany to intervene. The North African campaign became a prolonged struggle between German Field Marshal Owen Rommel's Afrika Korps and British Commonwealth forces, led by General Bernard Montgomery. Control of North Africa was vital because of its strategic location and access to Mediterranean trade routes. Meanwhile, in the Balkans, Germany invaded Yugoslavia and Greece to secure its southern flank. These victories temporarily strengthened Axis control, but they also delayed Hitler's most ambitious plan, the invasion of the Soviet Union. The North African desert became a crucial testing ground for new weapons, logistics, and tactics that would shape later battles across Europe and Asia. On June 26, 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history. Over 3 million German and Axis troops attacked the Soviet Union along a 1,800-mile front. Hitler sought to destroy communism, seize vast resources, and create Lebensraum, a living space for the German people. The invasion initially achieved spectacular success. German forces captured millions of Soviet soldiers and advanced deep into Soviet territory. However, logistical problems, harsh weather, and fierce Soviet resistance slowed their progress. The brutal winter of 1941-42, combined with Soviet counterattacks around Moscow, marked the first major setback for Germany. Hitler's underestimation of Soviet strength and refusal to allow tactical withdrawals proved disastrous. Operation Barbarossa transformed the war into a truly global conflict and opened the Eastern Front, the deadliest theatre of the entire war, where millions of soldiers and civilians would perish in the years to come. While Europe was engulfed in flames, Japan expanded its empire across East Asia and the Pacific, seeking to dominate the region. Japan invaded China in 1937 and later moved into French Indochina. Western powers responded with economic sanctions, threatening Japan's access to vital resources like oil and steel. On December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, destroying much of the American Pacific Fleet. The attack brought the United States into the war, uniting it with Britain, the Soviet Union, and China as part of the Allied powers. Japan simultaneously invaded the Philippines, Malaysia, and other territories, achieving rapid victories. However, the attack on Pearl Harbor awakened U.S. industrial and military might. The Pacific War became a brutal island-hopping campaign characterized by fierce battles, naval warfare, and immense civilian suffering. The entry of the U.S. fundamentally shifted the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The tide of war began to turn in 1942. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway, June 1942, was a decisive victory for the United States. American codebreakers anticipated Japan's plans, allowing U.S. forces to sink 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. This battle ended Japan's expansion and marked the beginning of Allied offensives. In Europe, the Battle of Stalingrad, August 1942, February 1943, became the turning point on the Eastern Front. German forces fought house to house against Soviet defenders in one of history's bloodiest battles. The eventual Soviet victory annihilated an entire German army and shattered the myth of Nazi invincibility. From this point onward, the Axis powers were on the defensive. These twin victories in 1942 changed the course of the war, proving that the Allies could defeat the Axis both in the East and in the Pacific. Following their victories, the Allies launched a series of counterattacks across multiple fronts. In North Africa, the British defeated Rommel at El Alamein in late 1942, and by May 1943, the Axis forces had surrendered in Tunisia. The Allies then invaded Sicily and Italy, forcing Mussolini's downfall and Italy's surrender in 1943. However, German troops continued to fight fiercely in Italy. In the Pacific, the United States adopted an island hopping strategy, capturing key islands like Guadalcanal and advancing toward Japan. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union pushed westward, reclaiming lost territory and advancing toward Germany. Allied bombing campaigns targeted German industrial centers and cities, crippling their war production, but also causing massive civilian casualties. By 1944, the Axis powers were retreating on all fronts, and the stage was set for the largest amphibious invasion in history. Day. On June 6, 1944, the Allies launched Operation Overlord, the invasion of Nazi-occupied France, commonly known as D-Day. Over 156 Allies and Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy, supported by naval bombardments and air superiority. Despite fierce German resistance, the invasion succeeded and marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe. Paris was liberated in August 1944, and Allied forces advanced toward Germany. Meanwhile, the Soviet Red Army was driving the Germans out of Eastern Europe, liberating countries like Poland and Romania. Hitler's dream of 1,000-year Reich was collapsing. Faced with attacks from both East and West, Germany's military and morale crumbled. The liberation of Europe also revealed the horrifying reality of Nazi concentration camps, where millions of Jews, Roma, and others had been systematically murdered in the Holocaust. By early 1945, the Allies were closing in on Germany. Soviet troops captured Berlin in April, and Hitler committed suicide on April 30, 1945. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945, celebrated as VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. In the Pacific, however, the war raged on. The U.S. fought bloody battles at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, facing fanatical Japanese resistance. To avoid an invasion that could cost millions of lives, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima's August 6 and Nagasaki's August 9. The unprecedented destruction forced Japan to surrender on August 15, 1945, marking VJ Day, Victory over Japan Day. World War II was finally over after 6 years of global conflict. World War II was the deadliest war in human history, claiming an estimated 85 million lives, about 3% of the world's population at the time. The Holocaust exterminated 6 million Jews and millions of others targeted by the Nazi regime. Cities lay in ruins, economies collapsed, and millions were displaced. The war reshaped global politics, leading to the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, and setting the stage for the Cold War. The United Nations was established in 1945 to prevent future global conflicts. Decolonization movements gained momentum as empires weakened. The war also accelerated scientific and technological advances, from radar and jet engines to nuclear power. Above all, World War II left a lasting lesson on the dangers of hatred, extremism, and unchecked ambition. It remains a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for both destruction and resilience.